Decisions. Why do we let it stop us from moving forward in business? And is making a decision tied to procrastination? Is that the true lead in to why people say I'm a procrastinator? I said people, not me. I'm not a procrastinator. Welcome to this episode of Make It Click. I'm Christine Rothdeutsch, and today we are talking with April Peters, who is the founder and CEO of Landing on Purpose. And she is an expert in helping us make decisions. Welcome to the show, April.
Thank you, Christine. And I love that you said expert. We'll see about that, right? I guess we can define expert as someone who is well versed in something and has a lot of practice.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Yeah, you're more versed in making decisions than I am. Let's put it that way. But let's start with the concept of making decisions. I know in the circles that I travel in, I hear many people struggle with making decisions. And one thing that came up recently was just is someone having to fill out a form to be a speaker in an organization, and they said that they couldn't decide which talk they wanted to do. They just couldn't get past that concept. But there's little decisions and there's big decisions. But why do we as humans, more often than not, struggle with making decisions?
I'd say that just to tap into the example you just gave, it's a fear of making the wrong decision. We're afraid that the decision we're about to make is not going to land where we want it, right? Or land with the audience that we're called to. And so for that speaker, for example, coming up with what the topic is, you can find yourself in a holding pattern trying to decide if something is going to fit the location you're going to. But if we don't have the information, then we get stuck in fear.
That's true. As soon as you started to say that about the fear of making the wrong, I'm like, all right, you got me. Well, I could do this, but no, maybe I should do that. Yes, the fear of making that wrong decision.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know a few people I've spoken to prior to this episode right now. They were excited when they saw what we were going to be talking about today. So let's really get into the meat of this to help our listeners to understand there is a way to make decisions and be okay with it and know that for you at the moment it is the right decision. So you have a decision-making framework. Can you just, not going into it in depth, but give us what those pieces are and just a short version of what each one means?
Sure. So the decision-making framework was founded and really based in what I do as a coach with my company, Landing on Purpose. We create safe space for people to get clear and get focused and missional. And so we base everything in mission. So it's mission over ambition. We want people to access who they are, who they're called to, what they're called to be. And as a result of that, after they've gone through the process of discovering what that is with us, then now we're moving into the phase which we call mission in action. And this is where we want to practically, right, support folks in living out their mission every day. And what better way to do that than in how we make decisions? And so what happened was, as I was coaching people, I started saying this phrase. I would say, if it doesn't feed, fuel, or fund the mission, then I say no. Feed, fuel, or fund. And folks started, really latching on to that and saying, oh, there's something there. And as a result, we developed a framework to really help people process through what that is. How do we define feed, fuel, fund? What are the guided questions we need to be asking ourselves as we investigate each of those three? Okay. And so at a high level, I will say that feed, for example, is the nourishment, right? Am I getting nourished here? In using the example you gave earlier, the speaker, what is going to nourish my audience? What is going to provide them with the practical tools and strategies they need to leave here and actually go and do? Right. So that could be a way for that particular speaker to land on the topic of their, the best topic for that audience. Another thing as an aside is really gathering information, because often when we are applying to speak or we're out, there are opportunities for us to ask for data that has already been collected by the organization or by the conferencing leadership. What do they know about their audience? What do they know about the problems their audience is facing? And therefore, you are able to come up with or choose and select the topic that is going to address those issues, that is going to provide ultimately a solution to their problem. And so that's the feed. That's the feed. And then fuel is really the passion, the energy. How do I feel when I am engaging in this, when I'm working on this, when I'm connecting with this individual? What are the things that I'm experiencing that incite me to live out the mission, my personal one, or in my business, the mission of my organization, the vision that we said we're all about, right? Or is there energy there? And as a result of that, we can come to some better decision making if we know that A is going to fuel the mission versus B, which is maybe going to stall it.
Well, okay, so that was a great example. Like, again, speaking, but what about something maybe on a even a smaller level of like just figuring out your what activities are you going to do for the week? What networking events should you go to, and the other activities that you're going to be doing in your business? How
Yeah.
do you decide? And again, I know we're worried that we're going to make the wrong decision.
Mhm.
Does that also come into play for things like that?
I think, well, there are three things that, landing on purpose, we identified as the three signs of indecision. And the first one I shared with you, fear, right? Fear of making the wrong decision. The other one is, we experience, we can sometimes fall into procrastination or haste, which really is, again, based in fear, right? It's based in this kind of feeling locked in terms of what are we going to do. So rather than do anything, we wait, we stall, we hem, we haul, right? And so the question is really, how do we unblock ourselves? How do we get out of that? And then I think the other thing is people pleasing. That's the third one. We are so afraid of making a decision that is not going to please someone else, right? And we're willing to displease ourselves as long as we don't shake anything up with someone else. And so in light of some of the smaller decisions, even down to what is going to be my agenda this week, that comes into play, right? Because other people are pulling on you for your time, pulling on you for your attention, right? Everything is urgent to someone else, even if it's not urgent to you. And again, Christine, I just want to remind you and everyone who's watching and listening that we always want to return to the mission. This is why the mission is the thesis for our lives, the thesis for our steps, right? This is the place we return to. So what we want to think about is the smaller tasks that I need to do, the administrative work that I need to do this week. Which of these things is going to be the most beneficial to the overall mission, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that it is it can be urgent. It might be urgent, but also in the long term, what are some of the things I need to be doing right now, getting started right now, that are going to impact my company, impact my business in ways long in the future? And so that's how we can begin to reorder our agenda, rethink what we're focusing on. And by focusing on the mission, we can actually think about three things. This is something that I determined as I was coaching a colleague. I was sharing that, we need to think about the impact on self, the impact on the environment, and the impact on others. And
Mm.
so in relationship to the decision-making framework, which I'm only giving a high level today, right? We don't have the
Mhm.
time to get into the deeper parts, but we need to think about that triple threat of impact, right? How is this going to impact me? How is this going to impact the environment? And how is this going to ultimately impact others? And others could be your clients, your customers. Others could be the staff and the support team, the leadership team, right? And for the good, for the better. How are we deciding so that all in all, we are meeting what we said we would do and what we intend to do? And I think anything that starts to drive us away from that is a no.
Mm. Well, and you said how all this is driven by the mission. Now, so I'm thinking, well, before you can even make your next decision, you need to know your mission. And it sounds like the mission is it goes deeper than I just want to help people.
Are you Miss America right now? Miss America, Christine Rothwell. Yes,
Well,
yes.
but how many times you hear this, especially women, okay? It's why, why are they doing what they're I just want to help people. I just want to make things better. It's gotta go deeper than that, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it does need to. And more than I think it needs to go deeper, Christine, because you need it to go deeper. The person saying that needs to be able to hold on to the purpose and the reason. And sometimes some reasons can sound good, but maybe they just stay at the surface and they don't tether you to being intentional and driving your actions and your decisions behind what you say is your mission. And if it's too surface, it's easy to say, tomorrow.
Mhm.
I'll help people next week. It's also easy for boundaries to be crossed, right? We have to, in order to do the thing that we are called to do, we've got to set the appropriate space and environment and boundaries in place to guard our mission, to protect our mission. And protecting the mission is, protecting my time, protecting when I am focused on this particular task or deliverable because it needs to be done. And therefore, I've got to make time for it. I've got to say no to some things. And I'm glad you brought up some of the things that we may face and challenges we may face as women is when we are pulled in different directions. Often, it's easy for us to put something else at the top of our list because it's a now moment. Somebody says, I need you now. And so
Mhm.
we say, okay, we'll push this to the side. And so when we're thinking missionally, instead of just whatever's coming my way, I'm going to try to juggle all the balls. When we're thinking missionally, we are critically thinking and critically deciding and recognizing that there's some things that can really wait that are not going to be destroyed if we don't go over there and touch them or fix it for today. And so I think it's important for people to do their mission work. Landing a Purpose really helps folks mission and message map their lives. So we start there. And in doing that, they get a real clear picture, a real clear narrative and story of their organization, where the direction that it's what we call the past and patterns. So we map the then and we look at the now. And so by mapping the past and patterns, you're able to see, look at what we've been doing. How close has this been to what we set out to do, or how far away, right? And now we can make some changes and we can adjust it. And then that's why the decision-making framework comes in, because we do have to look at the minutia. We do have to look at the mundane things, the everyday stuff that says, okay, you've got to, you're going to have to set this profile up. You're going to have to work on onboarding. You're going to, the little things that are going to make your business boom that sometimes people don't want to do, right? But when you look at it in light of mission, there's a joy that can become attached to the mundane things because you know that it is going to bring about what it is you dream for that organization or for yourself.
Oh, this is just it's filling me up what you're telling us, April, and I hope that our listeners are really tuning in and listening to what you have to say, because it's like it's giving us permission to say no sometimes, and it's
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
and being in tune with our own mission. And ultimately, and some people might think, oh well, that's just being selfish, but
Yeah.
in the long run, from what I'm hearing from you, it's not selfish, it's actually helping
Mhm.
more of
Mhm.
our community, of our societies,
Yeah.
when we can stay in touch with what our mission is, and making decisions in that respect. So it just is nice to, it's like you're giving everybody permission.
Yeah, and I'll say this in response to that. I think we have to when we lay hold of the vision, when we lay hold of what it is that we want for our lives, the mission statement for our lives, we have to recognize that that is a part of what the world really needs. The world needs us to be on mission and on purpose. And the opposite of that is living haphazardly. The opposite of that is being anxious. The opposite of that is feeling hopeless, right? Because we are thinking that we don't have something to contribute, or what we have to contribute is not enough.
Mm.
And so this is why we do have to say yes to no. We do have to say yes to ourselves, that no is okay. We have to be able to say that in some situations, yes is okay, and not feel like in some way we will disappoint people. We will, right? But the goal here is, if it's really about making the world better, then we've got to be tethered to the mission, both personally and professionally.
Oh, just love it. We could go on, April. This is just the tip of the iceberg of you being the expert. I'm saying you are the expert. Uh, but April, how can our listeners learn more about what you do? Get some more information. How can they go about that?
So my website, there's a link. You can go to go.landingonpurpose.com/RG. Those are two capital letters, R and G. Go.landingonpurpose.com/RG. That's a resource guide. And that will provide you with a couple of ways to connect with me. One, to schedule a chat where we can talk, and also to find out a little bit more about the decision making framework and workshop. We have one coming up actually November 11. And so I'm excited about that, so people can get connected. And it will also give you a little bit of more information about, how do you determine if you are living a missional life? We have a checklist. So go ahead and use it, test it out, and see where you land.
Awesome. All right. Well, April, I'm not letting you off the hook just yet. I do have one more question for you. And this is about you and your business, landing on purpose, and things that you've gone through, things that you've learned along the way. Is there something that comes to mind that you can say, wow, this is what helped me to make a click in my business? And it could be a piece of technology. Just
Mhm.
saying, it could be something you learned, or a piece of technology that once you started using it, it was like, wow, things are so much better. But what comes to mind for you, April?
Wow. So two things came to mind. As soon as you said technology, I think automated schedulers are amazing, right? They really help you set the parameters, talking about boundaries, set the parameters for when and where and how you want to be engaged. And so people can directly schedule with you and feel empowered to do so. For those businesses who are not using it, I think it's a great tool. And on the personal side, I would say creating a pack, really looking for individuals of like mind, and maybe in the same industry as well, who you can connect with, grow with, talk about talk shop with, but also support each other in some of the challenges that you might be facing. And so I just want to encourage people to don't think so competitively, really think collaboratively. Consider who you might bring into your circle, who may be in the same industry as you, because there's room for everyone, and there's always something that we can learn from one another. And so, yeah, a pack and a scheduler.
Speaking, I love that. Thank you so much for that, April. And thank you so much for being my guest today on Make It Click.
Thank you, Christine. And you're a great model and example of exactly what I'm talking about. I love that you participated in my workshop last Saturday, and we have had such great conversations. And so I wish you well and your audience well. Thank you so much for this time. Appreciate it.